What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host, and this is part two of our Thanksgiving holiday Picksgiving spectacular, whatever the heck you want to call it. Joining me, Katie Mox is on assignment, as they say in radio, I think. She's traveling for holidays. This is pre-recorded show you're watching, listening on Friday. We recorded this on Wednesday, so if you're in the chat yelling at us and we don't answer you, that's why. Also, if lines move, there's some major injury news, et cetera, please just be aware of that. It's the holidays. We have lives and families too, despite what you might think about whether anyone cares about me. Joining me to break down Sunday's 12-game slate, RJ White and Alex Selesnick, a.k.a. Propstarz, who have now been flip-flopped on the screen because I forgot to do that beforehand. What's up, fellas?
What's up? Sunday's 11-game slate. 12. We had the three Thanksgiving games. We have the one Black Friday game. That's 4. You get 11 on Sunday and 1 on Monday. So that's right.
So we include Monday for the purpose Correct. Of the show if you want to have a best bet on it, but you don't have to. You know what? Let's enough of the small talk. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I hope all your turkey was delicious.
Those games were incredible. I can't believe that what happened in that Cowboys Commanders game. I'm so glad I was tuned into CBS to see that, because you're never going to see that type of thing happen again.
CeeDee Lamb went absolutely nuclear.
I hope that I win $1 million in DFS, and that way, like, people are like, "Wow, I can't believe Brinson showed up to work." Even though I obviously would not have showed up for the show on Friday. We didn't have a usual. We've been doing a recap on Thursdays for the last few years. Not doing it this year. Thankful for that. We'll of course have a Super Friends recap on Sunday, so make sure and check that out. And this episode of Pick Six is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. If you like winning picks, make sure you sign up at sportsline.com. Use promo code PICK to get your first month for $1. I actually will bring my best bets. All my best bets for the entire week are up on Sportsline. I got hosed on a couple, to be perfectly frank. I mean, the Broncos -2.5 against the Vikings. Give me an effing break. Like with the Rams, I'm going money line from here on. Like, I'm going money line from here on out with the Broncos. Like, it's not even worth it laying the points. But it is worth it. That subscription to Sportsline, just $1 for your first month. RJ White, 58, 39, and 2. That is a 60% clip over his last 99 games against the spread. He is once again, and it's not just because he's the managing editor of sportsline.com, that his name is at the top of the leaderboard. It's because his picks are currently the hottest, and RJ is white hot at the moment. You want to sign up and get those best bets. We give out the full recap for week 11 in there, but as Alex pointed out, RJ 6-1 last week. Great job, buddy. Seriously, sign up for Sportsline. You get alerts when RJ puts in his bets. That way you get the odds. I think you had Cowboys at 10.5.
No, I did not put the Cowboys in. I was on the Lions -7.5. We'll see if that pushes me up to even better number by the time you're listening to this, because when Brinson gave my stats, it was prior to the Thursday game. So we'll see if that affects anything.
Indeed. All right, let's get to the games. Early slate of games. Patriots at the Giants. Giants -3 over. What? Patriots -3, isn't it?
Patriots are -3.5 on FanDuel.
Patriots are -3.5 on FanDuel now. An over/under of, just a humiliating over/under in terms of setting professional football back years and years. 33.5. Giants catching a little bit of juice as a 3.5-point home dog. RJ, it's asking a lot here on either side. Either you want to, thanks. Either you want to have a lay 3.5 with Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, or who else did they bring in? The Patriots brought up somebody else. It's like kind of hilarious.
I don't know. I know that they signed Malik Cunningham to a 3-year deal and then cut him a few weeks later.
They don't know what they're doing at quarterback, but they also, I swear they brought up it was hold on, I got it right here. Oh, Will Grier.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We'll see if he's active. You're either laying 3.5 with Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, or Will Grier. Have fun with that, or you're You're backing Tommy DeVito, an undrafted free agent who looked good last week against Bill Belichick. What do you think, RJ?
I'm backing Tommy DeVito against Bill Belichick because I don't really think I'm backing him against Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has not coached like Bill Belichick this year and frankly the last few years. And the Giants offense showed life thanks to playing a horrendous defense last week. New England's defense 31st in sack rate. So it's not like I know they're 7th in yards per play. They're actually pretty solid. So maybe the Giants don't score a ton of points, but if they're not putting pressure on DeVito, he showed that when he wasn't getting sacked in that Washington game, he was actually pretty good against a banged up defense that isn't very good. So I'm at least a little optimistic the Giants can move the ball. I am not optimistic the Patriots are going to go on the road and move the ball with that offense. I don't think you can fix that during the bye. Maybe the healthier offensive line could help. Maybe Bailey Zappi under quarterback would help. But in the unfriendly confines here at MetLife Stadium, I just don't think a 2-8 team that's one of the league's worst should be laying 3.5 on the road to anybody, even a Giants team starting Tommy DeVito. So I have the Giants as a best bet at plus 3.5. Brinson, your audio's out.
I'm sorry, I muted myself. I was actually this is what happens when I'm trying to text while trying to host. Alex, you got anything on this game? I mean, it's tough.
I thought you were just in awe of RJ's take there, Brinson, really just soaking that all in there. But
this is a tough one from a prop perspective. We'll move on to Steelers at the Bengals. I got nothing there. I can't back the Giants, but I mean, I do think I know that like I saw Mike Garafolo who like lives in the Tri-State area and like NFL insider for NFL media, but I saw him just tweeting with, I think it was like Art Stapleton about this game. It was like, I think the wrong team is favored, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I can go that far, but maybe pick them at least,
Yeah. Let's see. Steelers at the Bengals. Steelers are a 1.5 point favorite with a total of 34.5. Another scorching point total, but that's what you get when you get Kenny Pickett against Jake Browning, who's filling in for Joe Burrow, now out for the season. Of course, Matt Canada fired earlier this week, RJ. I don't know that you can necessarily say the Steelers offense. By the way, the interim coach for the Steelers is also another former NC State head coach. Or a former, it's Eddie Faulkner, I believe, or former not head coach, positional coach. So going from Matt Canada, former NC State offensive coordinator, to former running backs coach from NC State. I don't know exactly what. Anytime you go to a running backs coach as your interim, your interim offensive coordinator, you tend to get a lot of straightforward downhill runs.
Maybe that'll help this team. Maybe you take the ball out of Kenny Pickett's hand and that'll help. FanDuel kind of nice to us and the bettors here because a lot of these numbers are one or pick them for some of these games in the market, and they throw 1.5s out there, which allows you to bring the teaser into play when you tease this team up from 1.5 to plus 7.5. It's a great teaser number, especially in a low total game like this one where we don't expect a lot of scoring with the total just 34.5. So that's what I'm doing. The Bengals are the first half of my teaser at plus 7.5. I don't want to play them to win here. Their defense looks solid for a stretch, but they even have 400 plus yards in half of their games. They're 31st in yards per play and yards per rush. Pittsburgh can't pass, but they're 12th in yards per rush. At least Jaylen Warren can create some plays. That offense did not play well outside of his long run last week. So with Browning, I just can't expect him to be effective moving the ball, but we kind of don't know what we're getting with Browning. So maybe they can put together another 13-10 type of game that the Steelers had last week in this game against this Pittsburgh team that the defense is solid in the red zone. They've allowed just under 16 points per game in the last 6. So if you want to lay it with the Steelers, I get it. I'm just going to be safe here and tease the Bengals up at plus 7.5. Alex, do you have any opinion on what we're going to get with Jake Browning here? Are you looking to play some Bengals unders in this game from the receivers?
Yeah, I did, having obviously a minimal sample size watching Jake Browning, but he did look comfortable. I did believe he targeted Trenton Irwin just as much as Jamar Chase. So considering that they're probably, comfortable with one another, if no T. Higgins, I think Irwin could potentially be worth a look, maybe from a volume-based approach. We're speculating what the number is here, but if he gets a 2.5 to 3.5 reception line, I do think Trent Irwin could potentially provide some value there. So outside of that, just not a lot to be enthusiastic about as far as this Bengals offense. I imagine we see quite a bit of Joe Mixon. As far as the Steelers' offense is concerned, I do think they need to keep giving the ball to Jaylen Warren. It was encouraging to see him get the actual start in the game, but Najee Harris still mixing in quite a bit. Obviously, Najee is not going away. Najee hasn't been awful either, but yeah, Jaylen Warren just offers a much more explosive 3-down skill set. So I anticipate him being the focal point of Pittsburgh's rushing attack for good reason. Deontay Johnson, this is a potential matchup I could see him having some success in. He's been very good, just doesn't have, viable quarterback play is really limiting him here. And I do want to point out that I am giving out Katie's picks here, and she likes this as a potential under spot. RJ, you mentioned a potential 13-10 game. Katie must agree with you because she is going under 34.5 points here. I do think it's going to be one of these low-scoring AFC North battles between two teams who just aren't really doing a lot offensively right now.
Let me circle back real quick to Mixon, because what you said is interesting about Jake Browning. You see with these young quarterbacks that they kind of, struggle to get downfield and they throw it to their outlet passes. Do you think this might be a look to go over on Mixon's rushing plus receiving, thinking he might get some dump offs and add, 30 to 40 yards in the receiving game where he might not have otherwise? So if you like to play the Mixon props, maybe look to that one instead of the rushing. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I would agree with you for sure. A combination line also offers you some security from the standpoint of the game script, right? If the Bengals find themselves trailing, we've seen Mixon heavily involved in the short area passing game. And that's really actually where he's been the most effective this season. He's been largely inefficient rushing the football, but he's been fairly adequate as a receiver out of the backfield. So I definitely would look at the combination line. I think that's a good look, RJ.
All right. Speaking of low scoring, Carolina Panthers at the Tennessee Titans. We covered this game on the early odds look on the Monday show. And I mean, I immediately was stunned, to be perfectly frank, at the total in this game. Carolina can't do anything on offense. I don't care how bad I don't care if these defenses aren't very good. Like the Panthers they don't have any verticality whatsoever to them. They can be, you can move the ball on them. So maybe Derrick Henry has a huge game, but I can't see Mike Vrabel coming to this game thinking we're going to whip the ball around with Will Levis and try to put up a pile of points. And I was pretty excited when RJ, you also like the under as a best bet, because I'd circle this as a best bet from Monday. I actually need to get it on Sportsline in case it drops, because I wouldn't be surprised at all if, I don't get why this. I don't get why this, and it's juiced a little bit on FanDuel, minus 115 to the under. But I see 35.5 for the Steelers and the Bengals and 34.5 for the Giants and the Patriots. I don't think that these two offenses are any better than those two offenses. Is it the defenses? Why is this total this many points higher?
Yeah, I think it's a perception of the defense is not being as good, but the Carolina defense actually improving, allowed just 4.6 yards per play despite the final score in that Cowboys game, playing pretty well over the last 4 games since the bye. Their offense, of course, you mentioned, horrendous, 32nd in yards per play now. Pass offense is 32nd in yards per pass at 4.61 yards per pass play, and that's in a league with the Jets doing whatever the Jets are doing at quarterback. Even they got to 5 yards per pass, and Carolina can't get there. So I don't expect any success through the air, even against the Titans defense that struggles against defending the pass. Tennessee's defense 8th in yards per rush. So any competent pass offense, they can't generate interceptions, would light them up, but this is not a competent pass offense at this point. Tennessee's offense coming off a 3-game in a row stretch on the road. They struggled during that stretch. They're going to come back home. They're not going to put Will Levis in a position where he has to do too much. They're going to feed Derrick Henry and keep this a close, low-scoring game where Levis isn't exposed to this quietly pretty solid Carolina defense. So I have under 37 as a best bet. These totals are getting lower and lower because the quarterback play and the injuries are piling up here, and quarterback play has not been great in the league. So you're seeing a lot of totals here under 40, but even at 37, I'm like, I don't see how this game gets over 37. So I'm taking under on 37.
Yeah, I would just be shocked if there were a ton of points here. And I see a 36.5 out there on DraftKings, which means, this is juice to the under on FanDuel. So you could certainly see some movement here. If and I'm just going to double check Nashville weather really quick to see. Oh yeah, baby, Sunday, some rain during the early. Yeah, it looks like it'd be like rain, a little, not too bad in terms of wind, but maybe a little gusty. Just some nasty Nashville weather. I mean, again, I think you've got to get a defensive touchdown for this game to go over that total. Jacksonville Jaguars -1.5. Fresh off a bludgeoning of that Titans team. You saw Trevor Lawrence throw for 2 and run for 2 touchdowns in that game. Headed to Houston in what is with a total of 47.5. This is not a de facto AFC South title matchup, RJ, but if the Jaguars win this game, they have a 90% chance, according to the Upshot New York Times playoff predictor, of winning the division. And if the Texans win it, then they hold a season sweep over the Jaguars and would control their own destiny going in to win the division, and would certainly, of course, tighten things up a bit. Jacksonville with a win here would also really open themselves up to chasing the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Do you like the Jags or do you like the Texans here?
Yeah, it's going to be a kitchen sink game with the stakes that you just laid out there. There's no reason to hold back there. And in those type of games, I kind of lean to the team I think has a better offensive play caller, offensive outlook there. And I think that's Bobby Slowick here with Houston, considering the work that they've done with CJ Stroud. So I would lean to Houston here. But at this number, because we're getting the 1.5, like I mentioned earlier, I think it's actually 1.5 in a lot of places. Got to tease us one up. So this would be, my teaser with the Lions is like my big teaser this week. But obviously that was a Thursday game. We can't put that here. So I'm teasing this one with the Bengals, putting them both up to +7.5 in this game. Jacksonville's defense, 26th in yards per pass or yards per play, much worse versus the pass. They're 29th in sack rate. I expect a lot of explosive plays from Houston. They did give up some big plays versus Tennessee. I know they rolled in that game, but Tennessee got some explosive plays there, and I expect Houston to do a lot more of the same. It was really impressive. CJ Stroud, first awful game with turnovers, still managed to get 6.3 yards per play in that game and go out with the win. And with these young quarterbacks, if they're having that turnover game like he had, wouldn't expect him to win the game, but he was able to do that. So impressed by this Houston team. I think they come out here, have a good chance of winning the game, but it's an easy option to tease it up here because they'll get through the back door if they need to.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I'm actually going to fade the Texans. I got the Jaguars as the best bet, and I know that I'm Alex. You can go head to head with Katie's pick with me in a second, but actually, you go ahead and I'll follow the Jaguars.
Yeah, Katie is taking the Texans here as well at +1.5. I've just been so obviously impressed with the offensive rookie of the year, soon to be CJ Stroud, on pace to lead the NFL in passing yards as a rookie for the Texans. It just looks better and better every week, despite having the turnovers. Really battled back. So I think in this matchup, I think we're going to see a lot of scoring. I believe, RJ, you're on the over here as well as an official best bet, not to give away a pick of yours from the site. I am as well on the over. I think we have a potential shootout between two offenses that can air the ball out very effectively. Both these defenses are solid versus the run, but vulnerable in the back end. As a result, I think we see an uptick in passing volume in what should be a high-scoring game environment. So love the over here. And Katie, as a best bet, is on the Texans at +1.5.
Yeah, I have it on the site at 46.5. I got it in super early because I knew people were just going to bet it up, and I wanted to get it in ahead of that key number of 47. So if people are signed up to Sportsline, have the alerts on, and got that pick and ran out and got it at 46.5, they're in with a great number because it's not going down from where it is right now.
And I got it there as well.
Good for you guys. Thanks for the heads up. I guess if I'd use go to sportsline.com/join and use promo code PICK, P-I-C-K, I would have got my first month for $1 and could have turned on alerts for RJ or Alex putting in their picks and would have gotten notified when it went in at 46.5 and would have the best number. You could do that if you're listening to the show. Just food for thought. Also food for thought. Last year about this time, the Jacksonville Jaguars had just lost to the Kansas City Chiefs by double digits. They were 3-7. They were an afterthought in the AFC South race. They were certainly an afterthought in the AFC playoff race at 3-7. Come out of their bye, beat the Ravens by 1, get blown out by the Lions, oddly enough, 40-14, and then proceed to win their next 5 games. They beat the Titans, the Cowboys, the Jets, the Texans, and the Titans again. Not murderer's row, mind you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that they ripped through this just incredible stretch of teams. But the Texans, the Bengals, no quarterback. The Browns, no quarterback. The Ravens, again, we mentioned them before. The Bucks, the Panthers, and the Titans again. I see something similar happening here with the Jaguars. They're a little less desperate, of course, but they have a chance to win the division. They know they've been here before, and now it's 7-3. If you beat the Texans, you really have AFC South sewn up, and you can take aim at the number 1 seed. You get the Browns and the Bengals without their starting quarterbacks. You get the freaking Panthers. The Bucks are giving up all kinds of yardages. The Titans are terrible. I mean, this is a legitimate shot for the number 1 seed in the AFC for the Jaguars. And I just think you see them come out like focused and having sort of been here before and able to like lock in. And I'm trying to find odds for the number 1 seed, but lock in and be able to play well and to win this game. Actually, I've got number 1 seed here for AFC. Jaguars 5.5 to 1. Don't hate that at all with their schedule. Give me the Jags -1.5 as a best bet. The Saints at the Falcons. Speaking of divisional matchups that really, really matter somehow, these two trash teams. The Falcons are 1.5 point favorites. That was what it was. Let's confirm that it had moved. Falcons are currently -1.5, a total of 42.5. Not a bunch of points expected here. Derek Carr, as of this recording on Wednesday afternoon, still in concussion protocol. RJ, how much does Jameis Winston matter for your handicap of this game?
I think it's a little bit of a downgrade, but not much of a downgrade. We know he has a lot of starting experience in this league. It's a different type of offense with his big arm. So I think you just need to prepare for that defensively. If you obviously he's on the field, you know what to expect there. The New Orleans defense, 4th in interception rate, 7th in yards per pass, but they lost Marshawn Lattimore, likely out with a high ankle sprain. That really matters for this matchup. It's going to be easier for Drake London to get what he needs to there. The Atlanta offense was awful with Taylor Heineke before the bye. Ritter had some solid games when not turning it over, especially at home. So I think he can have some success here. This New Orleans offense, 30th in yards per rush. Atlanta's defense, solid across the board, 8th in yards per play. 4th on 3rd down, 6th in the red zone. With no Michael Thomas, I think it's going to be tough for New Orleans to score points here. I would lean to Atlanta because I rank them. They rank slightly higher than New Orleans in yards per play on both offense and defense. But in a lot of places, this line was New Orleans -1 or pick them. And it just seems like Atlanta is probably a little bit better team and they have the home field advantage here. So I would go with Atlanta in this spot, but my 1.5 isn't a great number in the market as we talk. So if you can go get in like a pick 'em, I might go with Atlanta at that point.
Yeah, I'm on Atlanta here. I got Atlanta as the best bet. I'm going to take Falcons money line. Yeah, I think I had it plus. I sent when we sent the email in, I had Falcons +1. But yeah, like they're -1.5. I don't have any interest in taking. I mentioned the Broncos. I think off the maybe I don't know if I mentioned on the top here or during the picks giving recap, but like I had the Broncos -2.5 and a Broncos money on Sunday night last week and a Broncos money line covers or wins, and the Broncos win by 1 because they don't get the 2-point conversion and all kinds of just dumb football stuff. I have no interest in laying more than a point with the Falcons versus taking the money line because just the way that the Falcons play football games, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it's close. I think with Jameis Winston in, I would like the Falcons -1.5 more, but also like the over more. We saw what happened when he came in against the Vikings. I mean, they were getting blown out, and he's just slinging the ball around, throwing the ball across the field. It's just in like outrageous stuff. How much does would you have interest in any props if Jameis plays versus Derek Carr?
Absolutely, Brinson. Yeah, I just think we're looking at a wider range of outcomes. Certainly a lot more volatile with Jameis Winston at quarterback. But as a Chris Olave truther, couldn't help but notice he was locking on to Olave. Olave arguably had his best game of the season with Jameis under center there as well. So he is willing to test the back end of the defense, which I do think is vulnerable in Atlanta. And Michael Thomas on injured reserve as well. So could see a large target share for Chris Olave. Also like Rashid Shaheed as well. I expect an uptick in targets and to be a full-time player in this offense. So yeah, I think both receivers with their skill sets just match up a lot better with Jameis at quarterback. So I personally think it's a big boost to those guys specifically.
I'd like to petition the Saints just to play Jameis full time, even if it means you miss the playoffs, even if it means that you don't win another football game. It'll be more entertaining, and everyone will like you more, except Saints fans, obviously, who will bemoan that, and Derek Carr, of course, who will be a moody emo dude on the sidelines. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more games, including the Pick 6 parlay next.
It's never too soon for college hoops. It's the Emerald Coast Classic on CBS Sports Network.
Time for the Pick 6 parlay, where we each select a game for a 4-leg money line parlay, but there are some rules. First, the person with the best record the previous week. We'll use week 11, not Thanksgiving, because we're recording this ahead of the holiday. gets to add the first leg, second place, second, et cetera, et cetera. By the end, we must have at least one underdog in the parlay as well. The pick six this pick six parlay segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Last week, the dogs bit us again. Niners, Dolphins, Steelers, and Vikings. We had two dogs in the parlay. 49ers and the Dolphins won. Steelers and Vikings both lost very late in the fourth quarter. That could have easily been a hitter. I think that also, RJ, and you're going to have the first pick. When you're building out these parlays, you expect the two big teams to win. And I think we got chances. The Steelers and the Vikings could have easily have won. I don't really regret those choices, even if they lost.
Yeah, this could have went either way. I'm a little. I mean, it didn't matter, obviously, but I'm regretting my decision when I had the first pick. I said I could either go easy and go with the Dolphins, which I did, or go hard and take the team that I thought was the biggest,
Packers
gap in what the spread should be, and I thought the Packers should be favored. So that would have got us a plus money, first leg there, and maybe we get out of one of these other two picks, or maybe everybody goes with favorites now since we don't have to go underdog. So if I could take it back, I would go that and see what the cascading effect would be for everybody else.
That's a good point. Oddly enough, I almost went Packers. Even though I had the Chargers as the best bet for some stupid reason, the Chargers are just terrible. But it is your pick, RJ. Alex goes. We'll do a consensus pick for Katie, and then I will have the final leg of the parlay.
Well, I don't think we should do a consensus pick for Katie because we know there's one team she actually likes, and that's Texans plus 1.5. Close enough to me to throw that as her leg of the parlay. So I would petition to put that in as her leg. And I know you're going to hate that because you're on the Jaguars, but I think that represents her picks well. On my picks, I'm between a few things. It's a very tough week for money. There's not a lot of easy money line parlays, money line picks to throw in this parlay. The Chiefs have that big spread, but I don't know how much you want to trust them on the road considering how that offense looked. I'm going to bypass them. I'm looking at either the Broncos, which we'll get into. I think that line is way off. I think they're going to beat the Browns at home. So that's a nice leg there, but I'm going to skip them and fade the Chargers once again by taking the Ravens, one of the best teams in the league. So I'm probably stealing a pick there, but at less than minus 200 on a money line parlay, I think that line should be like 6. So I think we're getting good value there for them, and the Chargers don't have a good home field advantage. So first leg of the parlay is going to be the Ravens at minus 196.
You will not stop me from taking the Ravens against the Chargers. We'll get to that in a minute. I mean, I believe we both have best bets on that. The Ravens are a great football team. The Mark Andrews thing stinks, but the Chargers are absolute dog do, as Ryan Wilson likes to say. So we'll put in Ravens minus 196. I love it. And we'll Prop, you're going to get leapfrogged here by Katie's Texans plus 104. I'm fine with it. It's a divisional game. They're at home. They're a really good football team with a good coaching staff, a great rookie quarterback, and plenty of weapons, plus a defense. I think, as you point out, kitchen sink game, everything on the line for the Texans. And if they lose this game, by the way, the playoffs become up in the air. So we'll take Texans plus 104, which means anything is on the board for you there, Alex.
I love that. I love that Raven spot from RJ. That was going to be my choice. I was thinking he might go with the Chiefs there. I'll just take the Chiefs here. I know it might be a tough spot, but yeah, I can't help but think it's going to be hard for the Chiefs to lose 2 consecutive games, in my opinion, especially after the way they lost to the Eagles in that fashion.
Chiefs minus 480. They're on the road. Patrick Mahomes has lost 1 road divisional game in his career to the Broncos this year. The Raiders have an interim head coach. They're trying very hard. They did a great job battling against the Dolphins, but you feel like you beat the Jets, you beat the Giants, or you beat the Giants, you beat the Jets, and then all of a sudden you've got to go to Miami, and you're like, we had a chance. Aiden O'Connell against a great Chiefs defense with the Chiefs. I mean, look, bottom line is, like the AFC, the number 1 seed in the AFC, which is the formula for winning Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowls. Bill Belichick did it. Andy Reid's done it. That is up in the air now and currently goes through Baltimore. Baltimore is a favorite against the Chargers if that's Sunday night, I think. So the Chiefs have to hold serve. I mean, it's not holding serve, but you got to take care of business against Raiders. So I think that's a great pick. RJ, any issue? We'll get to that game. I guess you don't have any issues with the Chiefs money on it.
No, I just don't think there's a ton of value with it because I think the line I would take the Raiders in that game, which we'll talk about. It's tough with the Chiefs, how they're playing, and they don't cover these big lines, especially on the road, all that often. So in terms of the odds that we're getting and adding to it, I would prefer something a little riskier even if it gives us less of a chance to win, it gives us better odds. And I think those odds kind of add up, but not my pick. So I didn't, that's why I didn't want to take the number one. I wanted to go with something I really believe in, which is the Ravens. Since I think that line should be 2.5 points higher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has left me exposed.
And the Texans are plus 104. So you have your pick on anything,
Yeah, but there's not really anything that's like a great line. I mean, I like I'll take the, this is not an easy one, but it'll give us some value. It'll boost the parlay. Broncos defense playing good football. Russell Wilson playing okay football. They're at home against a Browns team that is coming off a huge emotional divisional win. We'll take the Broncos minus 120. How's that sound?
That was going to be my first pick, and because I think that's the line that's the most off. So if I'd have done that, then Alex would have taken Baltimore and kind of we would have probably ended up with you taking the Chiefs. So I think we'd have the same parlay.
Yeah, we'd have the same parlay. Okay, that makes me feel better then. Yeah. And if Alex had taken the Chiefs, I would have taken Baltimore. So I think we're all on the same page in that regard. All right, so that's the parlay. Texans plus 104 as our underdog. The Ravens minus 196. The Chiefs minus 480 at the Raiders, and then the Broncos at home minus 120. That gives us a 4-team money line parlay. It pays out plus 582. We have been very close on this. We are going to get one soon, so make sure and get that in. You can do so at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Of course, this Pick 6 parlay segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are – this is a slight move. Am I crazy? Colts are still minus 2.5 at home against a Tampa Bay pass funnel. Can Gardner Minshew get going in this game?
Tampa Bay pass funnel coming off a brutal game against San Francisco, coming off a game where several guys got hurt, and coming off a stretch where this is their 4th road game in their last 5 weeks. It's a very tough stretch for Tampa Bay, and Indy coming off their bye. So complete rest disparity here. If you just look at matchups, I can make the case for Tampa. They played a tough schedule. They lost to Philly and Detroit at home. They lost at San Francisco and at Buffalo. Then they had 2 close losses to Atlanta and Houston. None of those teams are bad per se. So I think that they might be a little bit underrated by the market in this spot, but I just cannot play them with this rest disparity here. So we'll see if Minshew can take advantage of the injuries that the Buccaneers defense has had. He's only really had one legit good start, but it came against Cleveland of all teams. So this is a much easier matchup than that. I think he can have success here. So beginning of the week, I was leaning Tampa. That spot thing after Larry kind of talked me into it, I kind of leaning Indy. I think they're a sneaky survivor team and a sneaky money line team as well. You're on mute again.
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I don't type as I'm doing a bunch of different things. Anything for you, prop on Colts and Buccaneers? Excuse me.
Nothing from me from this game. Yep.
Okay, cool. I don't believe. Just making sure. Nope. Yep. All right, moving along to the Rams and the Cardinals. Something kind of crazy here. We have the Arizona Cardinals at 2-9. Our favorite, RJ. And I'm not having any of it. Of course I'm not. I want the Rams money line. Give me Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams in a divisional game on the road. I don't care if Cooper Kupp's there. We got Puka Nacua. We need to go Puka. We're going to go Puka. We're going to go Tutu. We got plenty of weapons there. I like the Rams to win this game. Aaron Donald put a hurting on Geno Smith. I think he does something similar with Kyler Murray. I think they can contain Kyler defensively and pick up a win here.
You also got something Trammell. I think there was some guy named Trammell who was catching passes for them last week, if I remember right. No idea who that was.
Brinson.
But great job by him. Arizona 1-7, including the playoff straight up against the Rams with Kyler Murray at quarterback, 1-6-1 against the spread. He has struggled against this team. Game feels winnable for the Rams. They did just have 4.5 yards per play, and that Kupp injury is massive if he's unavailable here. I know that they survived without him before, and this is an Arizona team that is pretty beatable and dealing with injuries on defensive side as well. So total dropped in this game. I'm with you. I can't see why you would have Arizona favored in this matchup. So the value is probably to the Rams, but if it was pick 'em, I'd probably lean to Arizona. So I don't know. I'm just kind of a stay away here.
Okay. Yeah. Kyler Murray, if you picked him up in fantasy, smart move though. He's looked pretty good. I mean, he'd probably get his a little bit, but certainly not, I mean, look, give me. There's no reason that the freaking Cardinals should be favored in a football game. The Denver Broncos are white hot. They have the longest winning streak in the NFL right now. 5 straight games, and they are 2.5-point favorites at home against the Cleveland Browns with a total of 35.5, a very low total. I've got the, and you can tell me if I can't do this, RJ. If it's 1.5, I think you sent in Broncos minus 1.5. It is down to 1.5, so I don't mind taking that. I took the money line, so the money line is minus 120. I got burnt by the Broncos on the money line, or burnt by the Broncos against the spread on Sunday night, as I mentioned. I like the Broncos to win this game. Their defense is playing much, much, much better football after that 70-burger got dropped on by Miami. That's been a key focus. Russell Wilson isn't explosive vertically down the field, but I think he can do enough checkdowns, get enough field goals, and limit DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the rookie quarterback for the Browns, to come away with a win here. Give me Broncos money line minus 120.
It's actually a 4-game win streak for the Broncos. It's going to be 5 after this week. They're going to win this game. It was 2.5. The market has bet it down to 1.5. I do not get it with this Cleveland offense that I don't think DTR proved anything in that game last week. Had 3.5 yards per play against a mediocre Pittsburgh defense. I know that we think of the Steelers as a very good defense, but all year they have been mediocre in terms of yards per play. They can get some sacks. Longest play that Cleveland had was 18 yards. I think the Denver defense, which still ranks 32nd, still not playing well on this season, has been a lot better since getting embarrassed by the Jets during this win streak here. They've actually played pretty solid, so I think they're going to handle their business here. Even this elite Cleveland defense, second in yards per play, they are vulnerable on the ground where the Broncos can have some success at 15 yards per rush, just 24th in red zone rate, so Broncos can get some touchdowns if they get into the red zone. And we think of this Cleveland defense as kind of unshakable and super elite. They've allowed about 10 yards per play, 10 points per game at home, and about 30 points per game on the road. And that's at Pittsburgh, Indy, Seattle, and Baltimore. So it's not like they're playing this monster run of teams that, I can't remember which team, but they played like Philly, KC, Buffalo on the road. That's not what this is. Right. And they're still allowing points, especially when we talked about the Gardner Minshew game earlier. I don't know what happened there. So I think Denver can have success with this game. Russ had a good game against a good Minnesota defense, playing well. They just need to get some touchdowns instead of field goals, and I don't see Cleveland scoring. So I think this line should not only be on the other side of 3, but well on the other side of 3. So minus 1.5 is an easy best bet for me.
Yep. Same. All right. Say break. We got the final stretch of the Sunday slate that we'll break down. But first, we can't wait to finish off the holiday weekend with an NFL and CBS double header featuring an AFC North rivalry between the Steelers and the Bengals. Then it's a showdown in the city of brotherly love when Josh Allen and the Bills face Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. It all begins at noon Eastern with the NFL Today. All hail Sunday. The NFL is on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
The Scudetto, where the soul of Italy meets the pinnacle of calcio. Catch Serie A on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount Plus.
All right, final couple of games here for this Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs minus 9.5 at the Raiders. Over under 43.5. We mentioned we have the Chiefs as a money line, part of our money line parlay, but 9.5 is a lot with a total of 43.5. RJ.
Yeah, and the total, was a little higher early in the week. At 44, I kind of want to play it under. It's been going down a bit because these teams are kind of under teams. Unders are 9-2 in Las Vegas games. Recent Kansas City games have trended under as well. Fewer points means it's going to be harder to cover a big spread. So at 9.5, I would lean to the Raiders. They hung around at Miami despite a very tough matchup against an improving defense. Hit some big plays in the passing game. But of course, the picks at the end sealed the fate, much like Jordan Love the previous week. Got down into scoring range, threw a couple picks. When the chances to win the game were there, and the Vegas could have made this a lot closer, except for those interceptions. The Vegas defense gave up 6.2 yards per play in a loss. I don't think they're going to have a success against elite offenses. But at this point, I'm not sure Kansas City has an elite offense. They have an elite quarterback, obviously, but 7th in yards per play. They feel untrustworthy in the passing game when Mahomes is doing everything he can, and they can't move the ball in those late game situations because the receivers are not threatening the defenses. They're dropping passes left and right, and so you have to attack this Chiefs defense on the ground. But Vegas can't really run the ball either. I think it's going to be a struggle for them to score consistently. So I would play this under. I just don't think the Chiefs are going to get out to this massive point total in this game. So I would lean to Vegas and lean to the under here.
I tend to agree with you. especially if the Chiefs jump out to a lead, as you mentioned. Like Andy Reid will take the air out of the ball. We know that the Raiders want to pound. They want to try and pound the ball with Josh Jacobs. They know they don't want to get involved into some kind of shootout with the Chiefs. Even if the Chiefs can get into a shootout, I'm not sure that they can. 3 games the last 3 weeks, I think, where the Chiefs haven't scored any points in the second half. It's crazy stuff with Kansas City. I think they'll get it going eventually, but man, you can't feel comfortable with this Chiefs offense right now.
Yeah, Alex, I want to ask you about the Raiders offense. Actually, what have you seen from Aiden O'Connell? Has he given you has he given you any reason to believe in him that he can support some of these receivers and get them over totals, or have you been looking to play unders in Raiders games at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he's locking heavily on to Devontae Adams. So from a volume-based approach, I think he's worth a look. It's hard for me to have a lot of confidence if we're looking at yard totals over 60 or 70, but I do feel like they're trying to manufacture touches close to the line of scrimmage, screen passes, design plays for Devontae. So I think he can support a wide receiver. Outside of that, I think we're going to see just a lot of Jacobs in this matchup, specifically against the Chiefs, who are vulnerable kind of up the middle. So, not a lot of confidence in Aiden O'Connell. I do think he can, potentially provide some just adequate quarterback play for one receiver. Sustaining both, I think, is unrealistic at this point, unless they're just playing from behind.
Jacoby Myers had a really good start to the season. It feels like he's completely disappeared. And if anything, like Hunter Renfrow got a big catch here and there, but I haven't seen much of Jacoby Myers since Aiden O'Connell took over. So that's why I wanted to ask that.
Tough scene for Jacoby. By the way, tough scene for your boy Rashee Rice, who the Chiefs he's playing. He's the best receiver out there. Justin Watson playing well too, but the coaches are even talking about how they don't they just don't really they're like, he's going to get his eventually, but it's game to game. It's just a weird approach by the Chiefs and the Raiders. All right, Bills and Eagles, huge game for the Buffalo Bills, going to Philadelphia to play the Eagles, who are coming off a massive Monday night win against the Chiefs on the road. Eagles -3 total, 48.5, RJ.
Yeah, and I know the Chiefs defense did a lot of the beating themselves, or the Chiefs offense did a lot of beating themselves with the drops there, but I thought the Eagles defense played a lot better in that game, in that spot on the road than they had been before the break, before the bye. So I was impressed by what I saw with them. They're down to 12th in yards per rush because they still couldn't stop the run here. And maybe when you get the tape there, that might give Buffalo an excuse to run more, which I don't think is good for this Buffalo offense. They're designed to win with the pass. So I could see the new offensive coordinator there, Sean McDermott, getting in his ear, wanting him to run the ball in this matchup because the Eagles have been struggling against the run a little bit recently. And I don't think that's great. Buffalo's defense coming off a massive day. All they needed to get you back on track was getting to play an awful offense at home in Orchard Park. And they can do that every week and they'll be great. But neither of those apply this week. They're playing a very good Philly offense, and they're hitting the road to do it. And the Buffalo offense, ton of points, 32 points, had that long Shakir touchdown. You take that away, 4.5 yards per play aside from that, just 16 points in the first half, even though they started 2 drives inside the Jets' 25 in that, and they could only come away with 16 points total in the first half. They really did not play that well in the first half. And then the Jets the defense was just done with this team, I think, in the second half. Philly's offense broke through late in their game, easier matchup here. I have them a tier above Buffalo. I actually have Philly right up there with San Fran as the best teams in the league, and Buffalo well below it. So I would put this line at 5 right now. I think at a neutral field, 3 makes sense, but I have Philly as a best bet at -3. I think it's a great number.
Yeah, interesting to see how the Bills offense looks against Philly's defense. Philly's defense hadn't been great on the back end. I think Buffalo, if Joe Brady stays in his bag and they had a good approach, I thought Josh Allen looked sharp against the Jets. You can certainly get after Philly deeper. I wouldn't mind a look to the over here. Certainly think this game will be popular for DFS purposes on the late slate Sunday night, though. Ravens at the Chargers. Ravens -3.5 in LA, over under 46.5. I don't know if you think about Ravens fans as traveling like a ton, but I don't think it matters. Like any reasonably big bandwagon style fan base or any big metropolitan style fan base, you go to there's people in LA who are Ravens fans, and Baltimore's not real nice this time of year. You know where it is nice? after the little holiday getaway, Los Angeles. I wouldn't be shocked if there's like crazy amounts of purple here with the Ravens, the number 1 seed in the AFC, a chance to bury the Chargers. A team, by the way, this is Lamar Jackson's first playoff loss was to the Chargers when he took over as starter from Joe Flacco. You know that they could create problems in the playoffs if you saw them there just because they have the talent with Herbert. And I love the Ravens here, RJ. -3.5 on quote unquote on the road. Playing up just a beat up Chargers team that is exposed on the back end. You can throw all over the Chargers. I think Lamar has a huge day. Wish Mark Andrews was in there. Isaiah Likely could come up big here as well. Would you like is Isaiah Likely or Kate Otten at a tight end for fantasy? Asking for a friend, not maybe my father this time.
I think I like Likely, but I want to like pivot to let Alex talk here because with Mark Andrews out of this passing game, what do you think they do? Is it going to be more looks to Odell Beckham? I know he had a big start there. Is it going to be Isaiah Likely? I think he struggled when he's played a little bit this year, even though he had a couple good games last year without Mark Andrews. So kind of curious whether you want to attack the overs on Likely or if you're looking more to these receivers to step up now.
Yeah, just based on what we saw earlier when Andrews was banged up, really Isaiah Likely wasn't able to produce much at all. So I think we're going to see just more targets towards Odell Beckham, Rashad Bateman. I think there's some opportunities there who've just been more tertiary options for this offense. So in this specific matchup against the Chargers, Brinson mentioned just really vulnerable on the back end, really vulnerable to speed on the boundaries. So I don't think the loss of Mark Andrews is going to be felt very much here. I think it's really going to be felt when they play, divisional games in December when Andrews comes up, very clutch. In those tough, low-scoring environments. But, I just haven't seen a lot from Isaiah Likely to inspire a lot of confidence. I'd be looking more towards Rashad Bateman getting an uptick in targets and Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers.
Yeah, and I wonder if Keaton Mitchell gets a little more work in the passing game because you know how explosive he can be. So get him in the intermediate 5 to 10 yards away and see if he can take it to the house because he's so talented. That Baltimore offense, I mean, Andrews got hurt right at the beginning of that game. They still had 6.8 yards per play in a huge primetime rivalry game. They're now 5th in yards per play on the year, top 4 in yards per pass, yards per rush. I don't think the offense goes into a tank at all with Andrews gone. They supplemented their receiver core very well this year, and they have some talent at receiver for the first time in a long time. The Chargers defense struggled to stop Jordan Love. They're now 31st in yards per play. They've allowed 475 plus yards in 4 of their 10 games. And the Ravens have an offense that can be explosive and just rack up yards here. So I think they're going to do a lot of scoring in this game. So can the Chargers offense keep up? I mean, they have kept them in a lot of games. You saw that 41-38 game against Detroit. But Baltimore's defense is 1st in yards per play and 1st in yards per pass. They're very tough to have success against. And this Chargers offense doesn't have a ton of receiving threats beyond Keenan Allen. He's still been able to do work in the matchups that he's had. I think Baltimore's defense will give him a little more trouble, and he has been playing a little bit injured in this game, the last few weeks too. So I think they're going to limit the scoring for the Chargers. They're going to score a ton. Baltimore is among the elite. I don't have them quite at the top of my power rankings, but they're very close. And Chargers are average at best, and they have little home field advantage. So I don't see why this line isn't 6. So I think best bet Chargers -3.5. I don't think it's going to get to 3, so I'm laying the 3.5 now.
Yep, I'm on the 3.5 as well. Actually, the Ravens are a much better team. The Chargers are really wounded. The matchup against their passing offense the Ravens passing offense against Chargers defense, just a bad one. We don't actually have any best bets for the Monday night game, and so we will skip that one. Instead, we will look at our best bets for the week. I've got Broncos money line, Jaguars -1.5, Panthers Titans under 37, Falcons money line, Rams money line, all those are like -120-ish or so, and Ravens -3.5. Katie has 2 picks for this week outside of the Thanksgiving game, and make sure you go check out. I mean, obviously, if you're never mind, don't check out that show if you're listening to this on Friday. But we'll let you know what the records were come next week. Katie has the Steelers Bengals under 34.5 and the Texans +1.5. RJ, what do you have?
I have the Giants +3.5, Carolina and Tennessee to go under 37 points. Denver -1.5, Philly -3, Baltimore -3.5, and my teaser is Houston +7.5 and Cincy +7.5.
And as we mentioned, we recorded the show on Wednesday. That means there's no player props out for the Sunday show. That's why Alex didn't have his usual plethora of picks. But since we're feeling generous, it's Thanksgiving time. I didn't even think about this until right now. I'm an idiot because of that, but whatever. Why don't we do a thing where, Alex, if you want to put them on Sportsline and just email your 4 picks or whatever you want to send, since you had 2 in the Thanksgiving show, send those to our email thread. If you want them, you can get them for $1. Sportsline.com/join. Use promo code PICK, P-I-C-K, your first month for $1. That means you get not the rest of the NFL season, but close. You get all of RJ's picks, all of Props picks, you get all of my picks too, but you can, probably want theirs more than mine right now, but you can do that. Sportsline is cranking out some great stuff over there. All right, that'll do it for us for the Pick Show, Best Bet Show. We'll be back on Sunday night to recap Week 12 with Super Friends, myself, Ryan Wilson, and John Breach after all the actions completed. I say this sarcastically. Go Tar Heels. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Happy holidays. For Prop, for Alex, for RJ, for Katie, who's traveling, I'm Brinson. We will see you guys later.